Good morning, good morning. This is Grief Talk. My name is Jennifer Tom.
And I'm Darlene Ripple.
And please grab your coffee. It's another Wednesday. And guess what? End of the month. It's been an amazing month of March. The only thing I can't believe it's March and we're still cold in this
Yes.
part of the world where we're at. It's still snowing and supposed to be spring. Anyway, that's why at 10:15 we always have our coffee. We get cozy and show up here to just share with you about lessons learned through life and loss. We are so excited to finish and summarize the month of March, since the month has all been about the art of communication. Well, I have to tell you, I've been taking notes. I've learned so much. Every week, we give you a challenge on something to do about our topic, and it's been amazing. Thank you, friends, for sharing our information. Thank you, friends, for buying our book. Thank you for those who are doing grief recovery group. We are just so thankful to all of you. So, as we conclude and close the month, I will let Darlene, because she does an amazing work with summarizing. She can tell us how did you feel about this month, Darlene?
It was a busy month, and lots of connections, and so we're excited about that. And just talking about communication. Communication is always so important, whether we're doing groups or individual, or we're just out with our friends and family. Communication is always so important. So I'm excited that we talked about, so the first week we talked about conflict. How do we resolve conflict? And we had some good tips. There's many different areas of conflict. So we talked about 5 areas of conflict, with yourself, with relationships, with others around you, with society, with nature, and with God, or your spiritual side. So we talked about those kinds of conflicts and just how to resolve them, and how to listen and have a positive attitude towards people.
I have to tell you,
You have to tell me.
My biggest one for that conflict, it's conflict with self. If we can master how to not, it's like when we have conflict with self, it means we're not congruent. And what that means, we have a war happening inside.
Yes.
And that's why we're always tired. I mean, I learned that from Grief Talk, this our conversation here, that some of my tiredness, is that a word? It comes from the war that's happening inside me because of conflict with self. I will just give an example of conflict with self. Let's say, just saying, no judgment here. I have intentions to feel healthy in my body. And then I go out and I eat a donut. Maybe 3 donuts. Especially from our area, we have fresh donuts every Wednesday. And I eat 4 or 5 donuts. Later in the evening, I do not feel good. That is conflict with self. Then I lay down and start thinking, why did I eat that donut? I had all that. And there is a conversation going on with my head. I could have eaten one. Why? I should have. Oh, that is conflict with self. And learning how to deal with that and being intentional. And being aware, because awareness is a key. When you're aware there's conflict happening with self, you're able to work through it. You're able to do something about it. So thank you, darling. That is, so the question is to our friends, which conflict is it? Is it conflict with the world, conflict with culture, conflict
with yourself or others?
Your relationships, your children, your friends, your work. What is it? Please write it down and then work on it. Because when we don't acknowledge it, we continue to suffer.
Yeah, and when we're not truthful. So we talk a lot in our group about honesty and being honest. And when we're not honest, which means emotionally honest, when we say we're good and we're not, when we don't acknowledge our emotions, we have conflict within ourselves, because ourselves want honesty. We want to get better, but if we're not honest with ourselves, we are in that conflict where we are living something we that's not good for us, and that we're not our integrity kind of kicks in, and we're living something that's not true, and that often causes conflicts in us.
I love it. Okay.
And then we talked about nonverbal communication. Do you remember how much of our communication is the words we say? Jen, how much communication? What do you remember?
I love that. Where's our chart?
Where's our chart?
So the nonverbal was like almost, was it 95? And 5 is what we say.
So 7% is the actual words that are said.
Right.
55% is our tone of voice and how we say things. And then the other percentage is our nonverbal communication. So, yeah.
And that's the big one.
So 93% of our communication is not what the words we say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So learning to read, learning to look for nonverbal communications. How are we communicating? Mm-hmm. Sometimes conflict is just caused by how we're communicating, not what we're actually saying. So that was really important to be aware of how we're communicating.
That is so good. That's so good. I don't want to use a bad word on Grief Talk, but I was about to. However, you've seen, I have this thing that I do life with, where if I make eye contact, I wish you love, health, and abundance. That's just how I do. And most times, even though, some people are tired, some people are having a bad day, it doesn't matter. Like life things happen, and they have a very difficult face, or they have a difficult time to smile. When I do that, I don't say it verbally. I say it's my thing from the heart. Most times, not all the time, most times I get a smile back.
But again, when we change our thoughts, we change our verbal, right? So if you're walking by someone and thinking, oh, like they probably are looking at what I'm wearing, like when they're probably judging me, our body shows that. When we look at them and say, right, this is a amazing human being, our whole nonverbal communication changes, and people sense that, right? People, when somebody's mad at you, right? And they don't have to say anything. They can walk in a room and you can tell that they're angry, or you can tell when somebody is just acceptance and full of joy, right? Because it's our nonverbal communication.
That is so good, darling. Mic drop. Like, seriously, that is so good. Yes, we've all experienced where you walk in a room and you feel it. So some people say energy. I don't understand very well the energy, all that stuff. But there is something powerful. It's called nonverbal. So, sometimes you might see someone and you're right. You start judging them and say, why is she dressed like in your mind? Like you don't need to say something. Why is she? You start judging them. They're not going to smile at you.
No.
Because there's already something that has happened. So I love this so much. So the key is, this is just how I do it. Maybe you have a way to do it where you can just have that heart-to-heart connection without communicating. And mine is, we have eye contact. It's I wish you love, health, and abundance. And most times, there's just a beautiful connection.
That's awesome. Yeah. And the next one was the one thing, and you're going to have to talk about what was the one thing.
I love that. We had our guest Kit, and she is an amazing coach, and we were talking about conflict. And most times when you have all these things happening, whether it's a relationship with self, a relationship with others, it doesn't matter when there's that conflict. It can be overwhelming to nail what is going on. So the key is to think, what is the one thing I need to resolve out of all these things? Because we all have a million and one things, but you need to nail it. What is the actual one thing I need to resolve? And that just helps everything else. So it's not anything, it's not the 10 things, what they did, what no. What is the main thing I need to do? What's the one thing? So I love that. If you missed it, please check it out. Please check our podcast. Support us on that, because we love all this stuff, especially this month has just been. Because I'm learning. As I said in the beginning of the month, I'm the communication and conflict and all that stuff. This was my
always
month.
learn.
I was feeling it. I experienced it, and everything I learned and what we shared has helped me through the month. So thank you.
Yeah. And last week we talked about clarifying the meaning. So just that the conflict comes sometimes just because we have different meanings to words. And we, when we talk about the written, even though the written and verbal is only 7% of your communication, what you say has different meanings. So we all attach meaning to words, but we have different meanings, and we all assume everybody means the same thing we do. And so again, when we end up fighting or talking, having conflict over things that we're not even talking about the same thing. And so we really talked about clarifying how, like, don't be scared to ask, like, what do you mean by that? Or this is what I think you mean. Is that what you're meaning? And it also just values and respects that person by letting them talk and by really listening to them and trying to understand what they're saying to you.
I love that so much too, Darlene. And you give us amazing examples about meaning. And you're actually really good at that too, where you ask, what I'm hearing you say. So I'm practicing it as we go to a new month. I'm going to practice that, because our intention here is to share lessons learned through life and loss. And we want to walk the walk. I want to ask those questions, because this month, my month was full of conflict. And maybe it's because I didn't ask what people mean. Someone writes a terrible text, I didn't ask, what does that mean? I just assumed what they're saying, right? Just an example. So have you encountered a conflict? So being intentional and thinking, how did that conflict happen? And what did they mean? So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So now we're going to go on and this is our final a session on or final thing on communication, the art of communication. So Jen was just going to share a little bit about what does writing actually help us with? How do we communicate through writing, and how can that, sometimes we call it soul writing, and we call it that because sometimes when we write things come out that don't come out when we talk. And when we write it on a paper, when you write something on the paper and go back and read it, it's more concrete. We can actually see what we are thinking and kind of evaluate it. So so maybe you can give us an example, Jen, about soul writing.
Yeah, I love that so much, because again, art of communication, we had the verbal, we had the non-verbal, and now we are on written communication. I have to tell you, so we all saw the chart about the non-verbal, the percentage, the verbal percentage, and now the written. Most times I find we can all be misunderstood, or we can misunderstand others what they mean. However, when we write it down, that's the written communication. It's actually your thoughts on paper, working on that, right? It's expressing your thoughts. And I feel like we've lost the art of writing. Remember when we used to write a letter, and you write a letter and it's so beautiful, right? And that has gone. However, even if you're not writing a letter to someone, it's just the soul writing. I like what you said, where you just put your thoughts in paper. And that brings us to why we wrote When Flowers Aren't Enough. And please, if you don't have a copy, please order a copy, because the key with this book was exactly that. How to do soul writing. We have pages and pages As you can see, and oh my goodness, you can't see. You'll have to order a book to see what we're talking about. But there's pages and pages of journaling where you have a guided question, and you see you have a guided question that's called wardrobe dysfunction.
Or adjustment.
Wardrobe adjustment. But what we are saying is that you can write your thoughts. You can do this soul writing where you sit down and just keep writing and write, and because it is something powerful when you put pen to paper.
There is.
I say it's like a release. So through our work too, like our training, our grief course, and the work we've done, the resources that we provide, the right tools we provide, one of them is actually writing. And I will share a story. When my dad passed away, there are things I wish I'd said and I had no chance to communicate. And through doing my grief work, and remember we are all 100% grievers, I was able to communicate through writing things I wish I'd said, or things I did not say, or all the thoughts I had. I put them in a book, in a paper, and I wrote it down. And you know, that really, really helped me to write all those things. And I'll share why I know it really helped. I used to have a recurring dream about my dad. And I had questions, and I had just, we all have dreams that are weird and we don't understand. And mine was like some questions. I was wondering, my dream would come that he's alive, but he died, and all. It was for many years I had that dream. When I put pen and paper, I haven't had that kind of a dream. I have a different kind of a dream. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's just my personal experience from writing down things I wish I'd said, or wish I would have done, or something different. All those emotional, if you put them on paper, there's healing that happens. So I know we all have a paper we can write, and sometimes we feel like, I don't know what to write. Get yourself a copy of this book. There's a guided questions, and you can just start writing it down, and it is powerful.
Yes.
So I think that concludes the month of March. I hope there's a few nuggets here and there that you got that hopefully were meaningful to you, and that you can use them. And as we start the new month, all we wish is that you can just take one practice from all the things we've shared and put them into practice. Be intentional, because remember, we are all 100% grievers, and we should all be a safe person for each other to share. And what is sharing is communicating. It's all together. So if we can be that good listener, if we can be that good friend, where you can say, okay, what do you mean? All those things, please put it into use. It just creates a better community, a better family, better friendship, and a better way to live life.
Yes, better connection.
Better connection too. We have a list. So let's start the month of April with excitement. We have a new theme. I will not say it until next month, but I am so excited about next month. Isn't that like every day I wake up, I'm so grateful. And now I'm even more grateful because of Grief Talk and the new month and all the things we need to share about lessons learned through life and loss. Until then, take care.
Take care.